is Chris Peters, and you're listening to Native Pulse. Native Pulse is a production of the 7th Generation Fund for Indigenous Peoples. We're located here in Northern California. And first of all, I'd like to thank our engineer, Stephen Cheney, who will be a part of this conversation and who has made these series possible. Native Pulse is designed to convene a conversation with Native thought leaders from throughout Indigenous country, Indigenous world, including traditional people, activists, organizers, and folks that are into just doing things in Native community, that have trouble just sitting around and doing nothing, but taking action, doing something, and staying involved in things. Tonight, we have with us one such person, Dr. Henrietta Mann. And certainly, you know, Henry has been involved in many different boards of directors. She's taken the leadership role in Native Sacred Lands Protection. And she is also the chairperson of the 7th Generation Fund for Indigenous Peoples. So welcome, Henry.
Thank you, Christopher. It is an honor to be here with you today.
And Stephen is a part of the program, and I don't want to exclude him from the conversation. So please introduce yourself, Stephen.
Thank you, Chris. Just first, let me say I'm really excited to be here with you both. Two amazing thought leaders yourselves. And my role here with the Native Pulse Conversations is similar to what you're doing today, Chris, is to help facilitate, to help with some of the technical support behind the scenes, and to just be able to distribute these conversations widely to the relatives that need to hear them. And so again, thank you. And I'm looking forward to our conversation today.
Good. The topic of today's conversation is giving Mother Earth a rest. And certainly with the coronavirus and the pandemic that has been reaching all parts of the Indigenous communities throughout the world, and stopping to a certain extent the industry, stopping individuals from going out and about. We have a stay-home policy. We have a physical distance policy. And as a result of all of this, there has been a lot less traffic, a lot less pollution, and a lot less noise pollution that is happening all over the world. And this time, although very sad for our peoples, has been quite favorable to Mother Earth. And Henry, I'm sure there must have been times in the past when things like this had come up. And the end result was of course devastation, but also an opportunity to give Mother Earth a rest. Can you talk about some of that?
I certainly will, Chris. And it is very appropriate that we, as the first peoples of this land, talk about how we lived in reciprocal and honorable relationship with this earth, that many of us as First Nations look upon as a loving female being who is very generous with continuing to provide us with the abundant resources that we need as the two-legged upright walkers with 5 fingers. We, however, have a responsibility for her health and well-being. We are stewards to protect this earth, this land, this wonderful place in which we live. There's no other place that we can call home. And it is very appropriate that the circumstances that have led to today have provided this spiritual mother of ours with the rest that she so needs. Because I believe that we, as the first peoples to live on this land, were a little amazed with the kind of aggressive footsteps that the colonizers, the strangers who came to live, walked on Earth. And unfortunately, we have seen in previous times epidemics among our peoples. A practice of genocide by those strangers who came to live with us, who not only targeted us as the human beings, the Wotstanil, they targeted the earth. They exploited her bountiful resources for oil, gas, uranium, gold, silver, without thought for what they were doing to her. And very fortunately, because of our cooperation with helping to maintain her health, our poor mother has been barraged for some 500 years, and she does need a rest. And I believe that that is what we are being told if we look at the current circumstances today, that she says to us, her first children, "You have done well all this time, my grandchildren and my children, in maintaining your stewardship responsibilities to me. I look forward to those ceremonies that you perform on an annual basis to make sure that my life as your spiritual mother is renewed. I know that your nations in California have world renewal ceremonies, which just do that, help to maintain the sacredness and the ongoing life of this first woman. I am a Cheyenne, not sister, and for us as a peoples, we have the Sundance ceremony, which we call the Lodge of New Life. And in that ceremony, a woman holds a very primary role in terms of taking care of the life of the people with her prayers and sitting on this bountiful, beautiful earth while her partner, a male, dances the sacred dance of the Sundance for her. And when that 4-day period is over, then we drink of the sacred water from this mother of the earth to renew ourselves, to bless our bodies. And we move from that sacred space back into the world to live, knowing completely that we are renewed as a peoples and can begin life once more. In the meantime, she too is renewed and is able to continue the monumental task that she has of supporting the life of her grandchildren and children. She definitely needs a rest in terms of our experience since contact.
Well, thank you. That was beautiful. You know, I think the impacts of the current period that we're living through now, we see the ozone layer, the hole in the ozone beginning to heal. Some of the air, the pollution in Los Angeles and big cities throughout the world are cleaning up. We can see blue sky again, where we hadn't seen blue sky ever before. You know, and you know, the seismologists will tell us that, hey, we're not moving around as much, so we're not having the physical impacts on the earth, and it's beginning to calm down. So the calmness of the nature, the calmness of the world speaks to a lot of what you're saying. But I think the important thing is the ceremonies that you so eloquently discussed. All tribes throughout the world, all indigenous peoples throughout the world are now doing ceremony and beginning to help bring back order, balance, peace back on Earth. And it's an important part of it. Can you talk a little more about ceremony?
Ceremonies help to maintain our identity as a peoples. They help us to maintain our place on this earth, in this world. They help to balance us as we walk the road of life around this earth. They are necessary because they are our spiritual connection to the everywhere spirit, or that creator who is known by many, many different names. Those ceremonies are vital to the ongoing continuity of the first peoples of this land, and so that they too are periodically renewed, so that they can continue the very basic responsibility of maintaining their stewardship responsibilities to this earth, that they walk gently and lightly on this earth, and that we always be very cognizant and aware of this place, this beautiful place in which we live, that those ceremonies help us to maintain that spiritual and necessary contact, not just with the earth, but everything in our environment, all of the peoples of the world, those that fly, those that walk on two legs, those that crawl, those water peoples, the sky peoples. We are all related. We live in a very interdependent world, and it is those ceremonies that precisely remind us that we are but one part of the sacred circle of earth, and that we live in an interdependent world that we must continue to honor respectfully and recognize that we are but a very small part of all things that live in this place that we call home, this beautiful blue planet Earth.
Thank you. You're listening to Native Pulse. My name is Chris Peters, and I have the pleasure of hosting the program tonight. And we are honored to have as our guest Dr. Henrietta Mann. And we're talking about giving Mother Earth a rest, an important conversation that is germane for the moment, but also an important conversation that we have on an ongoing basis, that humans have a responsibility to take care of the earth. And for the past 500 years, as Dr. Mann has discussed, we have been negligent. And I say we because Native people sometimes join in that process of exploitation too. We have been negligent in taking care of the earth. So now is the time to give Mother Earth a rest. So, Dr. Mann, can you speak a little bit about other activities, other epidemics that you've experienced in your lifetime, that you've observed, that you've heard about, that Cheyenne people have lived through, and provide some opportunity for survival again, and hope for that things are going to be okay. May not be the same as we just experienced, hopefully not, but still there will be an opportunity for growth and renewal, rebirth of the planet and people.
We have experienced unfortunate epidemics prior to this time. In 1858, as but one example, as the immigrants were rushing across our treaty lands, our hunting lands, they brought with them, in this one case I'm talking about, cholera. And there was a cholera epidemic in Europe at that time. There was a cholera epidemic in St. Louis, which was viewed as a great gateway to the West. And as they left St. Louis to go out west to gain their fortunes, to make their fortunes, and they heard of gold being discovered in the Pikes Peak area of California, they went west, carrying out their concept of manifest destiny. And they came across our hunting grounds carrying that terrible cholera with them. We had never experienced it before, And it is said that we suffered and dramatically were depopulated by about 50%. And it has been told to me that sometimes entire camps were left standing with the lodges still in place, and inside were the bodies of the dead. They ran. They knew how to isolate themselves, as we are doing today. But even though we were decimated by 50%, we continued to live. We lived because we rely very heavily upon our ceremonies of renewal, ongoing rebirth, and answering the prayers that were thrown over us by our grandparents to always continue to live and to maintain our cultures. So from that terrible time in 1858 of the cholera epidemic, we have encountered others that were unfortunately brought by the strangers because we had never experienced such devastating illnesses prior to this, whether it was whooping cough, whether it was smallpox, whether it was even in my time, there was a lot of tuberculosis among the older people as I was growing up. But even though we have suffered dramatically at the hands of pandemics, such as the one we are experiencing today, we survived, we lived, we continued to live, we embraced life, we maintained our responsibilities to our earth and to one another, to treat each other with kindness and love and respect, and to share this earth with all of the beings that were put in this world by the Everywhere Spirit. So this is not the first pandemic, but we have to be most careful. We are told to be very cautious in life and to make sure that we take care of our families, our children, ourselves, but particularly this earth.
Thank you, Henry. You're listening to Native Pulse, and Native Pulse is a production of the 7th Generation Fund for Indigenous Peoples, and Dr. Mann happens to be our chairperson. Through her guidance and wisdom, we've come a long ways. And we've certainly enjoyed the relationship with Dr. Mann over the years. You know, I think the current situation speaks to where we are now. But we're looking at a period of time when we're getting into climate change. And I hate to even bring that topic up because it's a continuation of this. So the current pandemic may be an eye-opener, a wake-up call to us that something else is coming, something big. And how do we begin to survive that? How do we give Mother Earth the rest that she needs now to be able to move into this period of time? So can you speak to that?
As our philosophers always say about life, they say things happen for a reason. We know that we are at a period in time not having to only think about the continued survival of our families, but we need to think about the continued survival of this planet. Unfortunately, in talking about that 500-year barrage, we have not been kind to the earth at all. We have lived with pounding footsteps, with the kind of results of creating a big hole in the sky world above the ozone layer by using too much carbon dioxide in the way we live and motoring the automobiles that we drive and use in transportation. We have, unfortunately, relied upon the internal resources of Mother Earth to fuel our economy, whether it's cars, whether it's airplanes that fly, whatever means we go. We have been very greedy, almost as if we were children, and have not paid attention to our actions, how they are influencing the world about us, and how we have just savagely raped this mother who loves us And we do have to think about the world tomorrow. What are we leaving for our grandchildren? Will they too enjoy what we as the current generations enjoy? So we have to be very conscious and be very strategic about how we use the resources of our Mother Earth to make sure that we mitigate this damage that we have done to her by our voracious appetite of decimating the resources of the Mother Earth that were put there for us to use, but not to the degree that we have. We have not been as responsible as we should be. Now we have to be more responsible and more strategic about keeping climate crisis at bay, trying to resolve those issues. And we need to do that because we do not want to leave our young people, our grandchildren, saddled with the responsibility of many, many critical issues that we would leave for them unless we begin turning back and carrying on our responsibilities to maintaining the sanctity of life and all the resources that Grandmother Earth, Mother Earth, has so lovingly shared with us. But we have been greedy and we need to stop.
Thank you. Thank you. We're talking with Dr. Henrietta Mann, and this is Native Pulse. And we are grateful for her conversation that we're having with her and her participation in it. The topics, we're just beginning to touch the tip of the iceberg. The issues of giving Mother Earth a rest, to the climate crises that we can foresee, are subjects of much deeper, much continuous conversations that we need to have. Not just Dr. Mann, but every human on Earth needs to be conscious of what's happening and where we're going. And I think we've got an eye opener. You know, we're in a situation now where we can see, hey, the benefits of slowing down has been real. The benefits that we have accomplished during the past month, and only a month, only a very short period of time, that we have given Mother Earth a break, a rest, not any length of time of relaxation at all, but just a very brief time, and she has bounced back considerably. You know, animals are coming out of every place throughout the world, and they're visible. They're are not threatened as much, and they're taking over again, which we definitely need. Our relatives, our four-legged relatives, are taking control of it. You know, we can make an intellectual decision to bring about change, you know, and cause things to happen, or we can wait until we're forced to do it. That the climate, whatever pandemic or whatever situation is, you know, we can be forced to make a change, but change will come, and change is necessary. And I think what we have experienced now is a wake-up call that says, hey, human population, let's take a break. Let's give Mother Earth a rest. So in conclusion, Dr. Mann, is there any wisdom, any words that you would like to leave the program with? You know, feel free to say whatever you would like to say.
As some of my elders say, they said, you do not have wings to fly to another planet. You do not have webbed feet to live in the water. I think just a way of saying, they said, so you really have to take care of this world in which you live. And that certainly is just a teaching method that our philosophers, the keepers of our traditional sacred knowledge, passed down through us. They gave us a wonderful world. They worked to maintain its soundness, its balance, and then we get here, and we have not been very mindful of their teachings. or maintaining the wholeness and the life of this place, our only home, Earth.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your time and your wisdom that you've offered us. You've shared with us today. You are outstanding in your work and your accomplishments. And I was very honored to have this conversation with you on Native Pulse. So, you know, as we proceed, and we hope to have other conversations with you and other people that are out there that are doing some good work, that are on the ground, that are in constant and continuing communication with people, with Native people, with other people, that we need to give Mother Earth rest. So Native Pulse, again, is a production of the 7th Generation Fund for Indigenous Peoples. We hope to have this series up and running on an ongoing basis. And again, before we leave, I'd like to thank our engineer, Stephen Cheney, who makes all of this possible. And we'll spend some time on getting this program out, and we will get it to as many people as possible. So thank you, Henry.
You are welcome, Chris
And
Stephen. Thank you.
And Stephen, would you like to have any comments?
Not really. I just, again, I was really honored to just be here, to be a part of this. I really loved what Maunchi over here had to say about ceremony and how that really guides us as we move forward. I really appreciated the story to really kind of bring it forward for us. Just being a person that's from the plains myself, like some of those stories, they really resonate with me. So it made me think about ceremony in that way too. And in some of our ceremonies that are geared towards rest and the quiet, that noise pollution like you were talking about, Chris, and just thinking about how, as we go forward, how we really take that ceremonial knowledge and apply it. It's real simple, direct information. It's not always easy to bring it forward, but we know the instructions and we know what we need to do. So just as a young person here, just with so much wisdom floating around me right now between Henrietta and Chris, I'm really honored and thankful for today. And I think it's going to there's some good things that are going to come from this.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you, Dr. Mann, for being with us today and sharing your thoughts. And I'm pleased to be a part of this program. You're listening to Native Pulse, a production of the 7th Generation Fund for Indigenous Peoples. Thank you very much.